Committee meeting for March 4th, 2015 to order. Roll call, Mr. Colstead's not here. I will do roll call. Mr. Gillis?
Here.
I'm trying to remember alphabetical. Mr. Killilly?
Here.
Mrs. Christ? Here. Mr. LaRue?
Here.
Mr. Moskal?
Here.
Mr. Schiavone? Mayor is here. We have a quorum. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if there's anybody who would like to address the board, we'll open the floor to public comment.
Becky Hayden, 14632 Keeler Avenue, Midlothian. I was not at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, but I did watch a portion of it on YouTube. And quite frankly, I was pretty concerned and upset to see that the mayor had decided on her own to give raises to 2 employees and it wasn't brought to the board's attention and they didn't vote on it. I have meeting minutes from April 25th, 2012, in which there was a discussion relative to a 4.5% raise that was being given to some union employees or non-union employees or not union employees and blah, 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 blah. There's a whole page-and-a-half discussion in these meeting minutes about how raises and compensation is always reviewed and discussed between the mayor and the board, and it's always voted on. So the fact that you chose 2 individuals, and I granted they might be working very, very hard, but so is everybody else in this village. And it's not fair that 2 employees get raises and nobody else does. As Jerry had mentioned, there are public works employees who've been waiting over a year for their raise, and they're not union employees. So it seems to me, and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, I don't envy any of your positions sitting at that desk, but you guys all agreed to be, you guys all put your hat in to run, and you were all elected. And as far as I can see, it's all of your job to work on behalf of the residents. And you all should be working together, not in silos. And Mayor, I specifically am meaning that towards you. I don't see, based on the conversations that happen at these meetings every month, and in the meeting minutes and everything that goes on, it doesn't seem to me that you are trying to work in conjunction with the trustees. It seems like you're making a lot of decisions on your own and not discussing it with the trustees and not getting their support, approval. Whether they agree with you or not, it still needs to be voted on. It still needs to be a decision made amongst all of you, not just you yourself. And that brings me to the discussion of the 2 grants. There's a $60,000 grant you told us about and a $100,000 grant you told us about. The $60,000 grant document has already been executed. And by virtue of the grant, once it's executed, 25% of the funds are immediately dispersed. And it shows on the DCOE website that the village has received $15,000 already. That was for the repair of the 10 fire hydrants. Okay? On the survey document that goes along with that grant, it said that the work was supposed to be completed between June of 2014, start then, and then be completed by September. So my question to you is that work complete?
No, September of 15 is when it's got to be completed.
It said on the survey September of 14. That's what it says.
Okay, I apologize. I believe it's supposed to say 15.
Okay, well, it doesn't say that.
Because
Okay.
that's what I was told my time limit was.
In both survey documents, in the survey document for the 60,000 and the survey document for the 100,000, specifically, question 11 states, that all of this work needs to be voted on and approved by the board. From June of last year through today, we went through meeting minutes. There's never a discussion, never a vote, never a mention of the village board, including the mayor, discussing any of the work that was supposed to be done according to those 2 grants. So I want to know from these 5 trustees that are here, did any of you recall discussing any of that work that was to be done in those 2 grants and voted to approve it?
We didn't vote on it. We were informed about one grant, the work was being done.
Which grant?
I believe the one that was with the windows and the paint.
That was a $100,000 grant for the capital improvement work.
As far as their
Right.
power.
So how much of that work has been completed?
I don't know if I can put a total percentage on it.
But some of the work has been done.
Yes, it
and
has.
it's been paid for.
Yes.
Okay, in other words then, somebody, and I don't think it was the trustees, so it must have been you, Mayor, authorized the completion of this work and payment of those invoices without board approval. So the village can't get that money back and get it reimbursed from the state until all the documentation is done properly. So that means that the village has already spent money for the items that are supposed to be done towards that $100,000 grant. The village has already spent money that was not authorized or approved, and we have to wait to get reimbursed. Because the grant document's not even complete yet.
I understand that. I've been told by the state that it is going to be approved very shortly.
That's irrelevant because those documents that she's referencing, it makes it very clear. They put a note and it says, be aware that there is no guarantee whatsoever that any of the money will ever be dispersed and that you are advised not to spend 1 penny. Well, I'm using the word 1 penny,
Right.
but not to spend anything and not to undergo any work whatsoever until that grant application is in fact approved by the state. And also more importantly, it really very clearly does state that board approval is of a
required.
mandatory obligation, and it's irrelevant of what the state is telling you on that approval. You have not worked with these trustees, and it is one of those things that I personally am going to put to you that there's another clause in those documents that you might want to turn to our village attorney about, because it does say that if there may be problems with the grant application, you are to notify the DCEO immediately. At least I'm asking for you to notify the DCEO that there may be a problem with what you've done with those grant applications.
I can do that.
So, you know, we're hearing all the time, we don't have enough money for this, we don't have enough money for that, yet 2 employees are getting raises. We've got employees who've been here longer than these 2 employees who are still waiting for raises, and then money is being spent on work that we should be getting reimbursed for through a grant, yet the grant document's not finalized yet. So that does not spell to me that everybody's working as a cohesive unit. So that needs to change. Also, we've been asking for months and months and months for financial reports. I believe it was the last board meeting in December, I had raised the question again, and you were very excited to report to all of us that some of Ryan's work had been completed, and now going forward, we were gonna see reports. I've yet to see a report. I've not seen one yet.
The Finance Committee will be approving the January Treasurer's Report at next meeting.
Which is what,
This Friday.
We have a finance
Well,
committee meeting at 3:30 on Friday.
We'll discuss the treasurer's report, which we have, and then we'll get an update on the other reports at that time.
And you'll be probably
We do have the
asking,
treasurer's report.
you'll be asking for approval of the Treasurer's Report
Yes.
at the March 4th meeting, correct?
And if I could just ask one thing, Mayor, if Ryan could, just maybe for the finance committee meeting on Friday, give the finance committee, since we haven't received reimbursement for the grant, if we could have a list of the expenditures already paid for the $100,000 grant, by vendor and amount already paid.
Right, and for the fire hydrants.
Okay, but we've been reimbursed for the,
No, when the
We
grant is,
received money for the fire hydrants, they're on order, we're waiting for them to come in.
okay, but if we could on that.
$15,000 has been dispersed, and pursuant to the grant document, once the grant is finalized and fully executed, the state will disperse 25% of the grant funds right away. So that's why we've got $15,000.
Right, and that's why the fire hydrants have been ordered, we're waiting for them to come in,
Okay,
and they'll be installed in the spring. I can get that for you, though, Karen. Yeah.
okay, thank you, I think that would be helpful.
And the finance committee is also addressing if there will be any raises or any non-union employees that will be discussed at the finance committee.
And just as a point of information, I drafted a compensation policy, which I believe is on the agenda. I forwarded it to the policy committee for their review, and I think it will address those issues going forward. And I actually wanted to have one other policy drafted to coincide with that by Friday, but when you get to my reports, you'll see why it may not be drafted.
Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board?
Sure, I'd like to talk.
At the last meeting I was here, it was, Ellen mentioned the raises, and that he was informed of the raises and part of how the raises went out, and that he was concerned about how they went out. So I know there was communication here between Ellen and the mayor.
But there was no board discussion and no board approval of it.
I'm not talking to you.
Well,
I'm talking to Ellen. You brought it up and you mentioned that, you were.
Can you at least admonish him for speaking that way?
Yeah, I kept quiet while she talked.
How about name and
I know
address
you
for the
mentioned
record?
it.
Name and address for the record?
It's not required.
It's not required. I just got through reading that. But it's Dan Ryback, 14309 Ridgeway. And Alan brought it up, so it's evidently more than one person knew at the time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm just curious, on the Ricky Rockets Town Hall meeting on the 9th, how that location was determined, whose idea that was, and somebody's paying for that location, or how did that all come about?
Ricky Rockets contacted me about wanting to do a town hall meeting to get resident feedback and asked if I knew of a venue large enough, because he wanted to make sure as many residents who could attend would be comfortable in attending. And he had actually been at one of the meetings doing a presentation here. He thought that this room would be too small, and I had suggested using the Park District. So yes, he is renting the Park District building to use the gym, and it is a Ricky Rockets meeting. It has nothing to do with the village, except that we, as board, we were invited to the meeting.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what, like, I don't know, all of you, see, that we buy a property now, 4760. In respect, you know, we come in the village and apparently there's stuff with all the permits, but, we don't have any reason yet where there's stuff. We do every step what they tell us to do. We hire the architect, we pay already, we buy stuff, and now there's stuff us, they don't proceed, so we wonder what's happening.
We are currently working on it. We figured, the special use you got to use was not supposed to alter the property at all, except that we said you could put in dormers as long as it didn't exceed the roof that existed right then and there. Then you brought to us that you wanted to put up an entire second story, and so I'm working with my lawyer and now going back to the zoning board to have the property be looked at to be rezoned back to residential versus commercial, so you guys could be then able to do this rehab you're talking about on the house.
That would be great, because we already paid $400 for the rezoning application,
Mm-hmm.
but what we was, never solved it, because they'll give us like special permit, but,
Right.
now,
And you
yeah.
just vote it out, you know, and I came here and they tell us to hire an architect to do it right.
Well, I didn't
No,
know,
they said.
the building department did, I guess, yes.
And you know what, we talked with the neighbors in there, and they all agree, one of those there say they're gonna show up, but I think they can't today. But they're agree that that zone will be like for residential, because there's a lot of families living in there,
Right.
right?
And
So-
that's why my recommendation was going to be to the board to take this back to zoning and let them choose how they want us to proceed going forward. Because you're actually talking, they are homes, they are not, I think one out of the Cicero Avenue homes for a while was a bridal shower or tuxedo place. I don't believe that to be the case anymore, it's now just a residential home. So it will be going back to zoning for their analysis and opinion to the board.
Okay, and we come to the village, or what is the next?
It's gonna take some time, we have to, they have to have a site plan, and then it's gotta be placed in the newspaper, there's gotta be a zoning hearing, and then the zoning board will make a recommendation to the board. Okay? We'll keep in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing no further comments, we will close to public comment. And go on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis.
I have a number of updates. I would like to read the email that I received from Steve Dugan, who is the developer for Right Way. Hi Karen, thanks for the information and thanks for braving the weather during our site visit. It was a pleasure meeting you and I look forward to many more. I had some discussions with Right Way and they have decided to stay where they are at. The major factors were the cost of rehab, potential property tax increases, and related expenses. Right now, they see their current site as being functional as long as they can secure a Class 8 and a sales tax revenue sharing program. I will provide you with more information relative to the extent of new construction, but to service immediate needs, they would like to explore the possibility of acquiring a new and larger trailer or prefab building. Could you let me know if the village would be agreeable with that? Our ordinance allows that, I believe. It says here, temporary contractor trailers and real estate models, they're allowed in any zoning district when accessory to a construction project or new development. So I guess my question is, how do you want me to respond to them? Come back to the board with,
What did they say about the building now? Temporary? Did they say, what did they say?
yes, it says here, Don, it says, the possibility of acquiring a new and larger trailer or prefab building.
For temporary use or?
Well, I responded to him, I didn't put my response, but I told him that with some type of a redevelopment agreement, if they were under construction, I would bring it to the board tonight for consideration.
So you'd be asking to put up like a building then?
Well, a temporary, they said a new and larger trailer or prefab building. So they have to go by our ordinance, and I could certainly send him a copy of the ordinance. And it says here, no such use shall contain any sleeping or cooking accommodations. So is this something the board wants to consider? I don't think we want to lose them.
For me, it'd have to be a lot better improvements than just another trailer. I mean,
Well, I think, Gary, it would be
lighting.
it would be to service immediate needs. Because they're talking about new construction. They are, it says here, I will provide you with more information relative to the extent of new construction, but to service immediate needs. I wouldn't do anything unless we had an agreement with them that said, we will allow this while you're under construction
For a certain time.
for a certain time period, certain.
She's saying a trailer.
No, well,
Temporary.
as long as they know that the trailer's not good enough it's not gonna fly, the prefab building, the trailer isn't gonna fly for any redevelopment agreement.
What do you mean it's not
On a
gonna fly?
permanent
No, no,
basis.
no.
On a permanent
No.
basis.
No, I'm not suggesting that, Don.
I understand.
Temporary,
So I
on
think they
temporary
should know that.
basis, temporary basis
Right.
while they're under
Right.
construction.
I think they should know that that's not gonna fly.
Well, I would make it very clear.
Good.
No, I wasn't even suggesting that it was gonna be,
No, I
a
understand.
permanent,
I-
just
I-
temporary while they're under
I
construction.
know
I
you
think,
understand that, I just wanna make sure they do.
well, there would have to be an agreement drafted by the attorney that they would have to sign. A redevelop, I think would be part of a redevelopment agreement. So I'm just looking for direction from the board. How do you want me to respond to them?
I don't get why they want another building, why they need something besides a trailer. It makes me sort of gun shy because I think this is gonna turn into, well, this is our building now. I don't know, just as long as they're clear that.
They're talking about new construction. And I met with these people. I mean, I was probably spent an hour with them over on Cicero Avenue last
Right.
week.
Right.
As long as they know it's a time certain,
And I'll make it very clear that they would have to sign an agreement.
while construction on a permanent building is going on.
Or could we put the stipulation that they can't get the new trailer or prefab until the RDA's in place?
Right.
RDA must
Right.
be.
That's a good idea.
And we
You know,
want,
because then we know it's not,
And plans for the building.
and we
Yeah.
want to prove it
Right.
plans for the building. I can show pictures of some of their buildings up in Michigan, which we would want. Because there's some that are very poorly done, but there's some they spent some serious money on that probably that's what we would like.
Right, and I think we want to encourage them to put up a new building because they will sell more cars.
Are they in ownership of that whole piece of land?
They
I was
told me
always-
they are, they told me they are.
I was always under the impression they only owned half of it, and they were just
Borrowing.
using the other half.
borrowing.
I will confirm.
It's not one pin number, I don't believe.
No, it's 5 or 6. I
You
think.
know. Be curious.
And the lot, there's a little lot next to it, right? Isn't there an unapproved lot next to it too?
I don't know what
I think there is.
To the north.
Again, this is just the first step.
Yeah.
If we can work with them, and again, think about it, if we can get a building up on that property, it's not only going to increase sales, but property taxes and hopefully create some more jobs, so.
Curb cut on Pulaski.
Pardon?
A curb cut on Pulaski.
Yeah, probably. That would be-
Landscaping?
Well, it would all be in the art, that would all be in
Okay,
the, well,
you know-
curb cut would be the county, but it would all be in the RDA, the redevelopment agreement. Okay, so I will start correspondence with the developer again, and let's hope that we can get another project, another shovel in the ground, okay? As far as the EPA outreach last Thursday, I want to thank everybody who showed up, and I especially want to thank Ellen and her Midlothian team, because they had a great showing, and I thought the presentation was excellent. The PowerPoint presentation is on the website, and our Weaver consultants really answered a lot of questions and showed that this is not just dry brownfield environmental issues. They talked about how this grant can help economic development and stormwater issues, and I was really happy the audience was so engaged with giving us suggestions for additional phase ones. So we're now starting the process, reaching out, trying to get the PIN numbers, preparing the letter with the maps and the access agreements to get more phase one started. So I want to thank everybody. I think the consensus was that we would have another one of these meetings somewhere down the road. I also would like to bring the board's attention on the Illinois Housing Development Authority demolition grant. I had gone back and forth with the attorney on how we're going to, as part of the process, notification, and we're going to have to do title searches on a couple of the properties, which I think he said will only be about $150 to do the proper notification. But the one question, on two of the properties, on the one property, on the Rivera property, he's taken the steps so that the village could acquire that property because there's so much in outstanding liens. But on the other two properties, his question was, does the village have any desire to obtain those properties, or do we just do the demolitions, put the liens on the properties? So I guess that's my question. Would there be any benefit for the village to try to obtain those properties? And again, they could probably go into the land bank. You just need some input from the board.
What are the addresses of the other two?
One's on Keystone.
No, one is on Lawndale and one's on 149th Street.
We're at Lawndale.
149-16? Oh, that house has been
Oh,
horrible.
yeah.
And what do you want from the land bank?
No, I'm asking, we've got the money to do the demolitions with the proper notifications. We could go ahead and they're all blighted. We've started the process. The attorney is trying to acquire the property for the village, the Keystone property. These other two properties, does the board have any desire to obtain those properties?
About how much more does it cost us to obtain?
Well, that would be the legal fees, whatever Bill would have to do to, and I guess I'd have to find that out.
The one at Lawndale's when they had the tree go through the roof.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that house has been like that for 4 or 5 years. You want to think about it? I don't need an answer tonight.
What would be the benefits of the village obtaining the property?
What would be the advantage? Well, they could go into the land bank, and they might be beneficial to the land bank. Somebody will eventually
The land bank might not think that.
Well, the land bank would be, as far as if it was donated to the land bank, the whole land bank would be. They take properties all the time.
They take vacant property all the time?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I think we should do, is just donate it to the land bank.
Well, we have to go through the process, though.
What are the address?
First.
What are the address?
14916 Lawndale and 3614 West 149th Street. Now, you don't need an answer tonight, we can talk about it next week, or we can talk about it the week after, if you'd like. You wanna go visit the properties? So we should just kind of put this on hold and, okay, and I'll bring it up at another meeting. Since the agenda cutoff, I have another couple other, actually many updates. So hopefully I don't forget any of them. This is kind of exciting, I thought. I got an email on yesterday from Tony Mano, and I want to read this to everybody. Tony Mano is the project manager for local planning and programs from the Regional Transportation Authority. Hi Karen, we submitted our full CMAQ application this morning. Attached is a full packet for your records, includes all communities involved. It will take CMAQ, that's Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, a while to begin reviewing all applications. I will do my best to keep you posted as we move through the process. Thanks for all of your help and work on this. So I just wanted everybody to know that the RTA has taken the 13 communities that they selected, and they have submitted their grant for the match through CMAQ to CMAQ. And CMAQ is gonna, I guess, help facilitate the process. And if this project gets funded in total, best case scenario, and again, I have to say, it's all contingent on the match from CMAQ, which is 80%, the RTA is 20%. But if we get it, and some of the projects could fall out, they said totally, but if we were to get this best case scenario, $979,999.50. So keep your fingers crossed, because there's a heck of a lot of work on this map in the transit-oriented development area that we would get at no cost to the village. So again, keep your fingers crossed. I was kind of excited to see that. This is huge, so much $1 million. Today, I was invited to go down to the Army Corps of Engineers at Harriet Festing's request for a pre-rain ready meeting. And Superintendent Joe Sperry went as well. The purpose of that meeting was kind of to go over the events for next Thursday night's rain ready meeting, which will be here in Village Hall at 7 p.m. It was the Army Corps' offices, MWRD was there, CNT was there, a representative from HUD was there, and the Army Corps went through their draft presentation, their PowerPoint. And if you want to see some historical maps and historical data and current maps and current data, I was impressed. Helen, you'll be impressed. They took all of Harriet's survey data, everything is mapped. I don't think I've ever seen as many maps as you'll love it, because you like all this old stuff and new stuff. So they ran through their presentation. And the way, I think Harriet's gonna go first next week, and then it will be the Army Corps. MWRD is going to do a presentation. Cedric was there today. They're going to do a presentation as well. They started talking about some of their solutions. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but there was a lot of discussion. The village is going to be asked to talk about some of our plans as well. So if you want to find out what all of this is about, it's really, you can see all of this work and start to see the culmination of some of these efforts. And I know, Helen, you've been involved with a lot of this. Be at the Rain Ready kickoff meeting next Thursday night. After that, we're going to have our steering committee, which is still being formed, and we will be meeting once a month. And Harriet has agreed to be at the meetings, and I think Ahmed from Army Corps will be at those meetings as well. So this is kind of exciting, especially when you start to hear about MWRD talking about solutions. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. And they're actually entertaining the idea of green infrastructure. But the one thing that I was encouraged about today was the magnitude of some of these projects are so large, it's going to require gray infrastructure. So it made me really think, they're really working on this. And again, I don't know when Harriet sleeps, because she was with David St. Pierre last night from MWRD. So I really don't know. Does she sleep? No. And Burrell was there. So, and there will be time for questions next week as well, but they're gonna try to keep that to a minimum so that they can roll out their presentations. And then from my good friend Harriet, I got another email. I think you were copied on this yesterday. I would just like to quickly read this because I think it's important for the board, because Midlothian is really on the map. And this came yesterday afternoon. Joe, Karen, Helen, you've become celebrities. Is there any chance that you would be willing to host this tour in the Village Hall being organized by the Metropolitan Planning Council? It's for people attending WEFTEC, I had to look this up, Water, Environment, Technical, Exhibition, and Conference, which is the largest conference for water professionals in the world. Needless to say, they won't all be attending, I'm guessing. That'll be a smallish crowd. Ideally, we get the Army Corps and MWRD to be a part of it. Cedric and IMET are copied in. Let us know your thoughts. We're happy to co-organize. The most important thing at this stage is to know if you're okay with the idea and if we can use the Village Hall. So this started with an email from Metropolitan Planning Council from Danielle Gillette to Harriet, copy Josh Ellis. Hi Harriet, I hope you are doing well. Josh and I are putting together a session and tour about the Calumet Stormwater Collaborative at WEFTEC this coming fall, and I wanted to reach out and see if we could include CNT's work in Midlothian on the tour. We intend to have about 3 to 4 stops on the tour. One will be a Space to Grow site at a school in the community, another will be in Blue Island. I reached out to Ryan about possibly stopping at a rain-ready home site if possible, and then we would love to include CNT and the Floodlothian and Midlothian group on the tour as well. A chance for you to talk about the community engagement aspect and have you feature your rain-ready plan to date. Please let me know if you would be interested in participating on this tour. The date is Wednesday, September 30th, from approximately 12 to 5 p.m. We are hoping to finalize the tour details early this week. WF is a bit urgent on the time frame. I went to their website. They've got it up. It's they're in Chicago at McCormick Place from September 26th to the 30th. So for them to select Midlothian, this group, which I did a little more research and it says it is the I think it's the largest. It's not-for-profit technical and educational organization, 36,000 individual members, 75 affiliated member associations represented, water quality professionals from around the world. So I guess, how can we say no? So we will confirm on that we would be happy to host it. Jerry, mark your calendar, you're on this too. And
What day was that, Karen?
it is on September 30th, Wednesday, September 30th. So I think Midlothian's getting, everybody's starting to learn about Midlothian and their water. So I think that's kind of exciting.
We were there last year, actually, on the Jumbotrons. People saw us there last year.
Oh, did really? Okay. Well, they're coming here this year, so it's kind of exciting. So I will get it on the calendar, and I get emails from Harriet almost every day now, so. And I'm trying to make sure I covered everything, because I have an awful lot here. The other, I don't want to forget this, I just got this. The other thing, I'm in the memo, because I'm gonna need help with this. And just so the board knows, I'm writing an open lands grant, which is due next week. And it's the Open Lands ComEd region, and I think the maximum we can get is $10,000, but that would supplement the Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant. So I've got to finish that. That's priority, and I'm trying to upload documents. Thank God for Nicole, because I can't upload documents into the grant application. But I received this on Monday, and I don't know, Mayor, if you received it directly from CMAP, but this is from, I know that Jeff sent you, and
Right.
then I sent it to you and Joe as well.
Right.
Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, John O'Neill, they need the village's input on a project to update the 2008 South Suburban Mayors and Managers Bicycle Plan. And this is, we need to help them fill in the blanks, and this is for future funding. It's lots of questions and mapping exercises, and it's, again, a lot of work. It's due March 20th. I did respond to Mr. O'Neill, let him know that we received it. I reached out to the mayor and Joe, and I asked for your input
Right.
by Monday. Is that reasonable?
We're
And-
working on it. We're actually gonna meet with Jeff tomorrow.
Okay.
Because neither of us, I was not included in the first email. How I found out about it was from you and Jeff.
Okay,
letting me know
okay.
about it. I'm thinking you got notified about it because you were in first with the mapping and the bicycle,
I
the
had no
active trans.
idea.
I'm thinking it has to go back to the active trans grant we
You know,
got.
this is through though, CMAP and SSMMA, so I have no idea why I got the email.
Yeah, so I didn't know about it, but then you had emailed me and Jeff had emailed me and I was going through it and I'm like, I don't know anything about it. He says he knows some of it, and so we're gonna try to work with Jeff to see
Okay.
if we can come up with.
And I know where there are lots of gaps too, but again, I think it's much better if we all work on it together, and if anybody has any ideas, there's lots of things that jump out at me where we have gaps in our pedestrian transportation, so, yeah, that's due March 20th.
And we also have to make sure that none of the ones that are on the map have been completed. It's, yeah,
But I know we have tons of gaps. I mean, We
Absolutely.
do have tons of gaps, so.
Can I ask a clarification question? When you say pedestrian transportation, do you mean like sidewalk?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. And then I had gotten a phone call, probably about a week and a half ago, about this pending project, and then Josh Sucharski called me about 4 o'clock today. So I just want to bring this to the board, and I probably didn't have to give it to you to talk to the fire department about. He has an Eagle Scout project proposal, and it's a rough draft, and what he wants to do is make some kind of a canopy over the I-beam on the village green. So like I said, this was just on my desk when I walked in this evening,
Okay.
okay? And I gave you copies, and probably contacted me because they know I'm involved with the Veterans Committee. So I'll make copies of this and we can follow it from there, okay? And I think that's all I got. I'm sorry, I got a lot of emails. Got a lot of emails this week.
Trustee Schiavone is out of town. He asked me to inform the board that the building department has been discovering that some of our multi-units are not using licensed contractors, and we're coming across having poor work done because of it. He is in contact with the attorney, Mike and Chris, and they're trying to come up with a formula or some wordage where we'll have to have licensed contractors doing some of the work. I guess one big red flag that came up was they actually found some HVAC work done that was not done by a licensed contractor, and probably, we were lucky it didn't cause any problems, but could have caused problems. So he wanted to let you know, even though he is not in town, he is still working on this from down in Florida. Trustee Gillis.
Yes, a few things here. I want to let the board be aware of the fact that we're going to apply for the 2015 CDBG grant, which is a community development block grant. Again, we didn't receive it last year, but this is a $400,000 grant to use for right-of-way improvement projects. The lawyer will be looking over the resolution and will be bringing it up at the meeting next Thursday or next Wednesday. Also want to let the board know that Public Works has had an issue with one of the pickups. It is their oldest pickup. It's had 3 rebuilt transits put in the last 6 or 7 years. It currently is in the shop getting looked at to see what the estimate is to repair it. but it's probably on its last leg, so we're gonna have to address that issue in the very near future. The fire department has currently received the ambulance from Manhattan. It's currently being looked at in getting a paint issue taken care of. We also have given back the forced ambulance that was donated to us because it didn't seem like it would be proper for us to try and sell that. So we basically have just given it to them and they're going to sell it. It had too many engine issues for us to use and it wasn't feasible to put money into it at this time. With the taking of the new ambulance from Manhattan, we've moved some things around at Station 2. One of the issues we had was we could not fit the new ambulance in Station 1's first bay on the far east side of the station. So what we've done is put that at Station 2. It won't be put back at Station 2, but we've taken the Mavis command vehicle out of Station 2, and it was moved over to Cal Park Fire Department, and we have the light trailer there for Mavis. But one of the issues we have, and one of the things I'd like to discuss tonight is removing the E-trailer or E-container that we have, E-recycle container we have at Station 2. The fire department really needs the room, and with the movement of TVs not being accepted, it's become quite a challenge for the fire department, especially, when guys go off shift or on shift, people are just dumping the stuff outside the door, and it's really not conducive to what I think Station 2 should be doing. Excuse me. So I would like to basically suggest that we remove the East Station recycling container there and try and come up with a better solution of where we can put it or remove it altogether. I know, Karen, you were instrumental in getting these in, and I know they do benefit our veterans, but I also think that we also have to look at the pros and cons of what we're giving up to do it by keeping it in there. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on it.
It has to be kept inside.
I think it does because of the fact that they prepare, these are recycled pieces of electronic equipment.
Could we do something with some type of covering in the recycle center property? It would be outside but covered, so dry.
Yeah.
Unless we could find another place.
Yeah, I don't-
Library Park District, I'm just thinking somebody else that might want to take this on.
Is it being used a lot? Do you know?
No, it's not being used a lot. Ever since they stopped accepting TVs, that was basically the nut and bolts of the intake was the TVs. So, what's left out there now are basically things that the garbage company will not accept. Basically, people are just dropping it off, at the fire station. So when they're getting off shift or getting on shift, they gotta go out there and take care of all the stuff that's dropped there, so.
Or only have another place that's covered or inside. It has to be protected, not just covered. If we're talking about
Right.
rebuilding computers and stuff.
Right. The
that's
elements
important.
are an issue. But, I mean, if we don't do it, what's the downfall of, maybe another community can pick it up and do it in our place.
Well, I think we should try to find an alternative site. I do.
Did you ask Joe by any chance? Do you have any ideas?
He doesn't have any room in public works.
Yeah, I didn't think he would have it here, but.
Yeah. No, the recycling place was one place that was good, but again, you have to have it enclosed. Well, maybe we can do some brainstorming on it, because I'd like to see it moved out of Station 2. I mean, they're strapped for room, and they're cramming things in because it's there, and it's really not a benefit.
How big is that?
You know what? I don't know the exact size. Dave, do you know what, how big it is?
It's the size of a little a larger pallet, probably 5 by 5. It's a box probably about 4.5 feet tall. We used to have 2 of them.
Well, it's a large tote, not a dumpster, it's a large tote.
Yes. What else do we have here? Okay. We also are in the position to renew our preventive maintenance agreement with the Braniff Communications Company. I'd like to submit it to Mr. Gleason for review. That basically is the yearly preventive maintenance agreements for the outdoor warning siren system. So that will be brought up again at the next meeting. The fire department will be inspecting the tent if Durbin's is going to be putting it up again for this year's flat. You know, the mayor sent out a memo that we received regarding the road being closed on Cicero from 7:30 to 12:30. One of the issues they had with Durbin's last year was people smoking under the tent, so the fire department's going to strongly make sure that that's enforced this year. And basically, you know, it was some of the employees from the establishment, so we'll make sure that that doesn't become an issue this year. And I believe that's all I have.
Trustee LaRue?
Okay.
You.
I was gonna bring up the Oak Forest Law as well. Chief Kaufman asked me to remind everyone and try to spread the word that Cicero Avenue will be shut down. He told me 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. completely north and southbound from 149th to 159th. This letter here from the mayor says we'll be closing at 147th and redirecting traffic.
Yeah, Oak Forest sent out a revised request and asked that we close it at 147, just to stop people getting down to 149th, because then they'd have to go on the side streets, and if you get trucks down there, that's why we decided that we would close it, as per their request, close it at 147, redirecting, telling people go past to get into Mid Oaks or go down Kilbourne up 149th, and then you can head northbound on Cicero.
Right.
So it's just a safer way, and they, I know, are also contacting Southwest Dispatch, so everybody knows not to send any of their emergency vehicles. I guess last year an ambulance tried to go to Olympia Fields Hospital down Cicero Avenue during the middle of the parade.
Oak Forest didn't.
They didn't, yeah. So they're trying to get a little bit more proactive to prevent any major problems.
Yeah, it's a big deal. There's a lot of people, 5K run, parade, all kinds of stuff. It's a big people. So it's a big deal, and as long as everyone's aware and spread the word. Our communication committee is meeting tomorrow night, so we'll continue discussions on ramping up for our Easter egg hunt on April 4th. I think I'm in receipt of about 1,000 eggs. I'll be bringing this up again next week at board to try to get more donations of eggs and candy. I got some from the mayor, I got some from chief of police, so it's rolling. Ruben. So I'll report on that next week, and of course the golf outing coming up May 9th.
Day before Mother's Day.
Yes, May 9th. So that's what we're working on, and some other stuff. And then I wanted to get an update on the scofflaw ordinance as pertains to vehicles here. I was told that the front office is calling people that didn't get stickers here and didn't get stickers this year and offering them half price or something. Is that true, or?
Actually, from what Maureen told me, that's what Barb used to do. That was standard operating procedure up front in the main office.
Yeah.
Is they had a Excel spreadsheet and would just start calling people. I did not find out till after the phone calls had been made.
Okay.
And I figured at that time it was too late for me to tell them, gee, no, you got here now. No, I lied, it's now $60.
Yeah.
So I was just following what I was told and instructed. I figured it was better to get at least 30 from these people. Some people were finding out, actually it's a way of cleaning up the list also, is we're finding out that people don't own the cars anymore, they just never bothered to tell us. So it hasn't been a ton of people, and Robin has been instructed to ask for the $60 from now on. And anyone she does not get that she can confirm that they do have the car, she's turning them over to the police.
Okay, because I think that was the intent, was
Yes.
to give the police department a list.
Mhm.
At one point, we were told there was no list, and then I heard that there.
I didn't know there was a list until I was told this.
Right.
So I was very surprised because I thought we were still working on the data list.
Right, because a lot of trustees, some of the trustees worked hard on that scofflaw ordinance way back in the.
Yeah,
We bought a list last year and we got nowhere with it.
well, I
That
still,
was the same.
this is an Excel
This
spreadsheet
is our
somebody
list.
made up.
It's our own list. But that's kind of what Chief Coughlin would like, he'd like that list every year to build, because some of these people may not have gotten sick for years,
Right,
and there's a lot of fines and fees owed, so, I'm just curious.
yeah,
So the police department is going to get the list of,
yes.
all right, well, we'll try to work on something better for next year, and hopefully continue to pass this list down, so we can build a database that,
Is usable.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Killivan?
Two things that I want to talk about, a couple of things that just came up. A community rating system, I think we want to try to get this done expeditiously. I can't speak for Kathy, but I think we probably want to see if we can get this done in March, early April somewhere. I think we can, you know, there's a lot of things we can do. We do have to pass ordinances that, basically our ordinances for storm water management mirror what MWRD's ordinances are, so I'll be giving that communication to Mr. Gleason if it's okay, and let him work, and then the specific areas that they probably want from per the CR's, you know, community rating system, and see if he can come up with something we can pass the last meeting. I do want to try to move this quickly, and, you know, the question came up about the grants, but, with your permission, Mayor, I'd like to ask, Jeff, if you could put a dollar figure on on the things we think he has to come up with as far as his firm giving us information, what kind of dollar figure that might be, and communicate that to the board and see if the board wants to wait for the possible grant, or if they want to have Jeff work on it. We probably don't have to do that until later in March at the earliest, because I think a lot of that stuff is very accessible to Robinson. I think Jeff sort of communicated that he probably can come up with this information quickly. He's already got it. A resident called me today, and she parks usually in the handicap spot at the metro station. They have apparently 10 handicap spots. She takes the 7:30 train, and there was not a handicap spot available for her. She would like us to consider making more handicap accessible spots at the metro station. Maybe doubling that amount. I don't know. There is 2 heavily used trains after the 7:30 train, she told me, and so that would seem to me that there's a lot of, if she couldn't park at the handicap spot, there was a lot of people that, there potentially could be a lot of people that couldn't use that handicap spot either, so she can't walk, and the other areas weren't accessible. So,
At the actual train
at the actual
station.
train station, yes. So I guess the police might have some input on that.
Well, first find out if they're parking legally, that'd be the
Right.
first thing, and then we go from there.
It could just be there were more handicapped people driving because of the weather.
And so the police would take a survey of that, is that what?
Well, check it
I mean,
out.
they would check how many spots are used over a certain time period.
Right.
And then, okay, so that's,
Make a recommendation.
make a recommendation to the board, yes.
Do we control the metro station parking lot? We take care of it.
We
spend
take
funds.
care of it, and I was just gonna ask,
But metro-
I don't know, I can't see Metro saying no to adding handicap accessible. I know one of the projects that Joe Sperry was bringing up for this upcoming spring was he would like to use some of the Metro funds. If you haven't noticed, the Metro lots look terrible and really need new seal coating. So I don't know to add extra handicapped spots. Is it strictly just a striping thing? Or do we have to get permission to add more spots?
I think Joe would have to reach out to Metro. I think that's what we always did before.
Right.
Rick would contact Metro.
Okay, I can get some direction from Joe, what they would tell us, because, you know, that'd be a great time, if we're gonna, you know, seal coat them, might as well paint them. If we want more spots, we'll just put more spots out. I'll have Joe get a hold of Metro then.
I talked to the chief about making sure that they're parking legally, the ones that are in those spots are legally parking.
Could I just jump in?
Yeah.
Something that I experienced today, I left my car at Village Hall, and I then walked to the train station. And in front of the where Emporium used to be, was nothing but a sheet of ice. Hasn't been, and it's in our, I mean, obviously not right near the metro station. Have we thought about going after those property owners that they've got to clear that, it was never shoveled. It was very dangerous today, walking on it. And I noticed that I think those sidewalks need to be cleared, and we need to hold the property owner accountable. And if they don't do it, we have to send Public Works out, then we need to issue a citation.
I would recommend when you see something like that, Karen, that you call up here to Village Hall and get a hold of the building department and have Mike be aware of it. And he
Okay.
can start going over and ticketing them.
Okay, I mean, I just experienced it today. Now, that snow has been on the ground for weeks, I'm sure.
You know, we should be able to treat it just like if they did cut their grass.
Right.
Right.
I agree. But Mike's only one person, so if someone else eyes see it,
Okay.
you inform him, you'll make sure it gets covered.
There's other municipalities that have done this more recently too. There was actually something in the south town about this last week in Oak Lawn,
Mhm.
where they warned businesses last year about it and said that if it happened again, they would be fined. And they actually commended a few businesses, I think, who actually did a great job and ticketed some starting at, I think, $500 or $700, I remember correctly.
I read it, I think it's $500.
Okay, going on, I did receive a communication from gentleman at PNC Bank hired to try to help clean up the issues with the bank bonds and the closing of Jawa. But one of his communication was to me today that originally we were told that for Jawa that there was going to be some sort of tax intercept where the tax money that was due Jawa was due PNC Bank was going to be a tax intercept. That didn't happen. He communicated to me today that he wants the tax levy money that was supposed to go to Jawa to go to Amalgamated Bank, who was a trustee. And I don't know, you know, Ryan has it that it's supposed that is given to them in January, so if that actually happens, we'll wait till next year because, you know, but I didn't even know how you could do that to tell the county, well, take this part and give it to, I don't even know legally he has to file. I did get to talk to him, but maybe you could help me figure out what to do with that because I was going to talk to him and say, well, okay, you have to give us papers to give to the county so that they can give it.
Right, well, I know we have a couple of other draws from the village, because like the library,
Okay,
the money is instructed by the county, by us to the county to give it straight to the Midlothian Library,
right,
along with the pension funds. So I know there's a way of doing it, I just don't know.
right. There has to be some sort of papers going to
I would
contact,
think
they're gonna get a
yes.
phone call.
Yeah.
So I'm going to communicate with him and then when I know something, I'll communicate with you and say, hi, this is what he wants. But if we already gave it to the next year, it won't be a problem the next year. PNC is very, one question I got on a conference call was there any thought of any of the villages not paying their bonds? You know, I'm thinking, where does that come from? There's 3 people from PNC and no, I said, no, we're gonna pay the bonds, you know, we did it, you know. Another question I have is when there's a referendum coming up and I think there can't be public funds spent, is that right, to promote the referendum? But there isn't any explanation anywhere, I don't know about the referendum, and I don't know what we can do to at least explain what the referendum is about. You know, we can't promote it, I know we can't promote it, but we can do something informationally, I believe.
You can
You
do
do a
something
press release.
informational,
It
yes.
just states what it is.
Right.
So, is somebody do that? I mean, I don't know who would do that, I don't know what we should do, whether it's a press release or whether, I suppose it's too late to put it into anything in the Park District, but, you know, I don't know what the timing of that is, but, I'd at least the public deserves, I think, to have some idea of what the referendum is about, and why the board did pass those 2 referendum items to put onto the ballot. So I don't know what course of action we should take before April 7th.
Maybe town hall meetings? I'm just trying to think, what do we do with home rule?
Home rule was town hall meetings and door-to-door.
Can you tell us what the referendums are? Are you allowed to tell us?
I'm sorry?
Are you allowed to say what the referendums are?
Oh, yeah, they're both gonna be on the ballot. One is for an increase from $1.25 to, I'm sorry,
Up to, it doesn't.
up to $4.25.
Here, I could read it right to you. I got it.
Okay, there you go. Look at you.
Shall the village of Midlothian impose a surcharge up to $4.25 per month per network, which surcharge will be added to the monthly bill you receive for telephone or telecommunication charges for the purpose of improving a 911 emergency telephone system. And the second one is, shall the village of Midlothian impose a real estate transfer tax at a rate of $5 per $1,000 of value or fraction thereof of the real estate to be paid by the seller of the real estate transfer, with the revenue to be used for municipal purposes.
Thank you.
I'll see if I can put something together that would give information about these 2, and we can discuss it at next week's meeting.
Yeah, the 911 thing, the cost of 911 dispatching has gone up substantially over the years, and unfortunately, the use of landlines has gone down. So the infrastructure fee has never caught up to what the cost of dispatching is, so that's the reason for the.
And our 911 fund is constantly in a deficit position.
Because of that.
And getting worse.
And getting worse, less and less landlines.
So if we could talk about that, and lastly, this is just a comment, but I don't have anything against Robinson, I certainly don't have anything against Jeff Koza. I think he's a very competent engineer, but in my opinion, I think we need an engineering firm that's a little more aggressive about possibly networking and talking about possible grant sources for some of the things that we need done. I think, I think that's one of the keys nowadays, is not just an engineer who's competent about doing their job, but also to find out, to give us the new things that are happening in the engineering world. What are possibilities for doing this? One thing, that came to mind was, I got an email from a gentleman who was pitching about LED light fixtures. And LEDs have come into their own, in the last year or 2 about lighting. They've gone up, their use and reliability is much better than it used to be. So, I would expect an engineer to say, hey, why don't you guys look at this? We have a couple firms maybe that have been pretty good with this, and maybe you should talk to them. And maybe a lot of these firms will do it on a performance contracting basis, where, they will do it for free. They will, and the savings on, from the savings in electricity will pay their fee, and then after that, we'll get the savings, so there's no outlay to the village. Now, that's the type of thing, that's the type of things I think in economic development, in anything that potentially could save us in the grant field. I think that I would expect the engineering firm would be connected enough, or network enough, or be out there enough where they would know some of the opportunities that the village could access. We don't get that. Robinson is a very competent firm. There's no doubt about that. But I think we need a little bit more. And I think we should either, or both, maybe we should have a conversation with Robinson about this, or maybe we should go out and have a request for qualifications for engineers and see if there's anybody out there who can give us more information, and give us some of the opportunities that we possibly can latch onto in Midlothian, and for any of these purposes, from an infrastructure standpoint, or economic development standpoint, or savings standpoint, I think that should be one of their jobs nowadays, not just to sit there and say, here we're gonna do a bridge, here we're gonna do a road, here do the engineering for it. I think that we should expect a lot more from our engineer nowadays, either from our present firm or from possibly another firm.
That's one of the things, exactly one of the things I took out of the meeting on last Thursday, was that, the outreach meeting, was we were consultants, the excitement that they portrayed and the just, they didn't just stop with what they wanted to have a meeting about. They went on about other issues that, I was very impressed with them, and I agree, I don't think we're getting the commitment that we deserve and our residents deserve from our current firm. But that's just my opinion.
I think at one point, we talked at a finance committee meeting about putting an RFQ out for engineering and for auditing. So maybe that's something we need to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of the problem too, we've had Robinson Engineering for quite a few years. And I think they just became complacent. We've had different engineers that we've dealt with, and it'd be surprising to learn that some of the people that we've had help out in Midlothian weren't even certified engineers through Robinson, so.
I need an RFQ up. I'll get the specs and everything we have to do and put it out and see what kind of response we get back. I think it'd be a good thing to do.
That's all I have.
Okay, great. Trustee Mosco.
Yes, Mayor, just 2 items this evening. I think Trustee Gillis mentioned it earlier, we have a finance committee meeting scheduled for this Friday at 3:30. The items that we've included on the agenda will include the treasurer's report, which you sent us over the weekend, thank you. Also included in that are the scheduled revenues, which I'll come back to in a second. Something we've been waiting for. The cash projection update, discussion of the status of the financial reports, so it's an update at that point. The compensation policy that Trustee Kreis has drafted, and then we'll talk about the budget for the upcoming year. Some good news, I think, in the schedule of revenues that we got, at least in terms of what I'm seeing for the first half of the fiscal year. I know we're a few months beyond that, but I think almost every category of revenues was up compared to the same first 6 months of last year's fiscal year. So utility taxes, gasoline taxes, motor fuel tax was at the highest point, I think, that it's been in the last 10 years for the first 6 months. State income tax is also at the highest number it's been for the first 6 months of the fiscal year in the last 10 years. All good signs. Sales tax is obviously up, but that's not a surprise because of our home rule sales tax. And obviously the video gaming tax revenues continues to go up. So we'll talk more about that Friday, but that was good information to receive. And then one other update, I think the board recalls we had some discussion and we approved a change of payment processing companies for the village hall, and I've asked Nicole to keep tabs on how we're doing with that. And just to give an example, in the first month we were averaging somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a month in fees, higher in months where there's a lot of water bills being paid, and the surcharge amount for the month of February was just under $250. So significant savings when you multiply that by 12 months. So
yeah, I believe it's the savings for the residents too, that we use the e-pay, right? And you don't have to pay the.
Correct, depending on which way they paid. Yeah. So the village was not charging residents any of the fees that we paid.
Right.
Processing companies.
Yeah.
And depending on how residents paid, some of them included the fee, but that's good news for us. That will add up to some significant savings as well. So good job to Nicole. I thanked her, but you should as well. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. I just have a couple of things under my business. Just as a reminder, the Ricky Rockets Town Hall meeting is going to be on March 9th, 7 p.m. in the Park District. Once again, board members, we are invited as guests. If you do plan on attending, if it appears that all of us or a majority of us are going to be there, I'd like to post it as a possible quorum of the board, even though we might not even talk to each other, just to stay in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Last week I had presented to you guys the letter of intent from CBRE for representing drive time for the properties at 14500 and 14550 Cicero Avenue for the drive time to purchase and put in a used car lot on that location. And CBRE is kind of pushing, Drive Time is very anxious to get this done and moving forward. And I mean, I'm very excited about Drive Time looking to come here. They're along the lines of a CarMax. They have 2 locations here in Illinois right now. They're located in Lombard and Schaumburg. They started here a couple of years ago. They've actually, they're a company out of Arizona, and they've got 125 locations nationwide. They don't do any repairs on site. They only sell cars, and they boast that their price on their car is the price of the car. And last year in the 2 locations here in Illinois, I believe they told me they did 67,000 sales at each location. And last year they topped 100,000 cars in each location. And so the opportunity to have that kind of new revenue generating in the village seemed very exciting to me. The letter of intent did indicate that they would remove the one existing building and retain the other building and renovate that to be their showroom. And they're looking to see if the board can make a decision on this pretty quickly, because they want to make a change and they want to get this going before the spring gets here. And I just wanted to know how you felt. You said you guys wanted more time for discussion and things like that. I did have a chance to talk to Trustee Killily, and he indicated to me that he had done some investigation about drive time, found out that they're an A- rated with the Better Business Bureau, and their cars are pretty nice. They average sell their cars for about $13,000, and normally they don't try to get anything older than 2008. So they try to only stay in like the 5 to 7 year old. They don't like real old cars on their lots. So I'm trying to get some kind of direction from the board, because CBRE is kind of getting pushed by drive time to get an answer.
Could I just, you said they anticipate selling 100,000 cars at one lot?
That's what they did last year up in Schaumburg.
100?
2,000 a week. 2,000.
What did Bill Kay tell us he sells a month?
He increased his sales by 200 in a year. So probably, like, that was almost 400 a year.
Yeah, that was the
New
number.
cars.
That was the number that drive time gave us.
That just seems,
I thought it seemed like a lot of cars.
I wonder if we have any way of
That's
verifying that. That just seems almost impossible.
They're talking about tearing down the one building, right, and renovating the second one?
Correct.
They're renovating the north building.
The north building, yes.
What's the status of the Ford dealer?
I had actually talked with Bill Kay after our meeting last week, and Bill Kay said right now at this time, his plans for renovating the dealership he is in, or moving or relocating or anything, is in the conceptual stage. He said because he is a dealership for Ford, he would have to get approval from Ford before he did anything, and then he'd have to get designs approved by Ford. And while he understands that he has an older building, he is not against the idea of staying where he is. He said he could always renovate the building he is in. It's just quite costly to run a 1960s building in this day and age. And I agreed with him. When I asked him how he felt about bringing maybe another car dealership into the community, he goes, Mayor, there used to be 3 of them across the street from me. Competition is always good for business. So I felt very confident. He did not seem offended. He appreciated that I gave him a call and talked to him. And I told him in the future, if he does have any plans to renovate, or if there's anything else he'd like to do in the village, that the board would be more than happy to consider any proposals from him.
The one thing that stood out in the conversation we had with the general manager, the one thing he said was, the hardest thing for him to do is keep people here in Midlothian.
Mm-hmm.
But if I get him here, I'll sell my car. But the hardest thing is, there's nothing for them to come to here in Midlothian. Something like that would definitely increase traffic in the car buying business, and could potentially help him in his current location. Just my thought.
I could see that, yeah, I could see that. If they're coming here to go to a drive time, maybe they won't find what they want there and go across the street.
Now, do you think that Ricky Rackets would have a negative approach towards coming here still? That would be an option, knowing that you made mention about expanding down the road.
Yeah, no, with the conversations I've had with Ricky Rockets, he was set after the board had said that they basically weren't interested in pursuing that part of it yet. He said that he would be happy just having the corner lot and doing his own thing there. So I don't think this would have an adverse effect on Ricky Rockets coming here at all. And once again, draw more people into the community.
Did the representative from CBRE give any insight as to how they arrived at the purchase price offer?
They actually did. They, first off, did their homework and found out what we originally paid for ours. And then they also compared it to a lot, I think it's the old man Carey's, I think it's down in Crestwood. I know it's a little bit smaller than our properties, and just kind of went with the fair market, what they were hoping they could get the property for. And I figured it, you know, I wasn't thrilled with the $900,000, but all that kept going through my head is that's $900,000 back into the bond fund where that money belongs, and it's close to what we paid for all 3 parcels, and we'll still retain the ownership of the last parcel. So I figured, and the prospect of all the, you know, sales tax that we could get from a car dealership of that magnitude seemed to outweigh maybe the little bit less we're taking on the front end to pick it up on the sales tax end.
Yeah. I'm just curious, I mean, I noted, I think it was about $800,000 less than the appraisal for those 2
Right.
pieces, so.
Mhm.
I guess the concerns I have, if indeed they are selling 100,000 cars a year, I'd like to get that, something in writing from them. Because I think it's real important for us to know. That just seems like a lot of cars. I don't know, does it seem like a lot of cars?
Well, even if they sell just 25,000 cars a year.
That's, yeah, but there's a big difference between 25,000 and
How
100,000.
big a place did they have at Schaumburg to be able to
To
sell?
move 100,000 cars, and then if they indeed are selling 100,000 cars, we can kind of do some calculations as to what they would bring in sales tax revenue every year, and I think that would factor into the board's decision. I do, I really do, I'm just trying to look at this. The other thing that I think we have to address is the location of the water tower as part of any negotiation. But I think, really, from my perspective, we need to kind of have an idea of how many cars they anticipate selling at that location every year. Because I don't know, that 100,000 just doesn't seem like a real number. And I don't know that we have any way of verifying it other than getting,
Would you buy 50,000?
I mean, just,
no, I don't think I'd buy
Would you buy
50,000.
25,000?
just.
What is this, let's make a deal?
No, but, to frame this up, okay, $100,000, 100,000 cars a year is 1,923 cars a month, and it's 6 business days, or a week. And it's 6 business days that we're allowed to sell cars in Illinois, that's 320.5 cars. If you can sell half a car a day.
A day.
That just, okay, so Alan, you're the CPA, I'm just, just this
But to the
person.
mayor's
I think
point,
okay
Yeah.
like to sell
To the mayor's
320
point,
a month.
it's more than 0.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, and I figured it out, if you take 1% on a $13,000 car, and even if you just sell, say, 20,000 cars, do the math, that's quite a bit of sales tax that this village, new sales tax that this village is not realizing right now. So I will see if I can get how many they anticipate selling here in
Okay.
Midlothian.
I think that would be important, and I also think whatever they make their offer, they're probably anticipating a counter offer. And I think we do have to address the water.
And they're not asking for any other deal other than
Nothing.
the
Absolutely nothing.
good price on the property?
That's it.
But would you agree they probably started and they're anticipating a counter offer?
Well, I guess any good business person would, I don't know.
Okay, they're just my thoughts, so,
Who wants to counter on?
well, that's for us to decide after we get maybe get this information of how many cars own.
Would you take $1 million?
Is this let's make a deal?
And that's all I have. Like I said, I'm going to need some kind of decision quickly from the board on this, just because I know they want to get going, so they're open for the summertime. Because I don't think putting in a used car lot is going to take much time to do. The other thing under the clerk's business, because Mike couldn't make it, in case you guys aren't aware, Mike's brother-in-law is ill and been in the hospital, so that's why he is not here this evening. He got a correspondence from the Salvation Army for their donut day, and he didn't give me the information to have here. He was gonna supply it tonight, so I'll actually put this on for next week as well. It's just asking, they've done it in the past, and I think he was just looking for approval of it. With that, anything else to come before the board?
I'd like to go into executive session for a few minutes to discuss employee discipline.
I'll second.
Okay, hold on. You didn't also leave me a